Everybody, hope you are all doing well on this fine Sunday, and hope you've all had a lovely weekend, and also, obviously, being the first week of December, getting and looking forward to Christmas? Christmas, that is the word that I'm looking for. Hello, Florist, hope you're doing alright. Today, we're going to be doing a fireside chat. And if you don't know what a fireside chat is, it's basically a simple idea where you, as community members, are able to come on and have a chat about whatever you want. One of the things that I hear about constantly when it comes about War Thunder is the majority of the community are not able to get their voices out there. So therefore, why not try and give people an opportunity? And this is your opportunity to be able to come on, have a chat, get it on the channel, and put forward your ideas when it comes to War Thunder, or maybe you just want to talk about something completely random. You know, that's also something that you can do as long as it's War Thunder related. So we're going to get some people on, and then we're going to, basically be playing naval at the same time, so I hope you enjoy, flying about. One of the great things about naval is because it is so slow, I'm able to play it alongside doing this stuff. Did you see the post new trailer? No, I didn't. Not yet, but I'll make sure to have a look at it later on. And also, you love democracy, so do I, isn't it a wonderful thing? So, the first caller that we have on today is, of course, Sith, or Festive Sith, as he's known right now. So let's make sure that he's unmuted. Hello, Sith. How are you doing today, brother?
Greetings. Not too bad. Rather good, actually. Yes, how are you?
I'm doing alright. I'm happy to get this started and get into it while also playing a little bit of naval, seeing what's going on with that.
Yes. Well, I've just unlocked the Challenger 2 main battle tank, and I must say it's absolutely gorgeous. And that brings me on to the topic I wish to discuss.
So, what is the topic you want to talk about?
Well, I've noticed a lot of discussion around top-tier vehicles, and, we now have, for example, with America, they now have 4, technically 5 Abrams tanks in-game with XM1, M1, M1IP, M1A1, and M1A2. But then you have nations such as China, which lack not only main battle tanks with only the Type 90, but also a missile SPAA system. So what I wanted to discuss is, well, something that Tubo the Panda and I came up with, mainly Tubo, but I put in some additional ideas of what should make top tier top tier.
So do you mean in terms of meta or playstyle or vehicles or
in terms of what vehicles every nation should have?
So like the amount of vehicles?
More like the minimal that they should have.
Right, okay.
The minimal variety that they should have.
Okay, yeah, that is kind of an interesting question. And for me personally, it definitely more comes down to the idea of it doesn't really matter how many there are. There just has to be equal amounts across the board, and also equal amounts of types of vehicles. So let's say, when it comes to, let's say an AA, right? We talk about SAMs quite a lot, the addition of the Tunguska, and then eventually that gave us the ADATs, which gave us the Roland, which gave us all of these other things, right? And for me, when I think about it, it should definitely be more about type of vehicle, and just make sure that everybody has at least some form of, top tier MBT, along with some of the, interesting ideas that brings. How about you? What is your general thoughts on the matter?
Well, for starters, I think that it's...
Go ahead, sorry. I'm just dying.
That's alright, yes. For example, I think that, to start with, it is imperative that every nation has at least 3 main battle tanks at top tier ranging from 9.7 straight up to 10.3 in this case. So for Britain, for example, you have the Challenger Mark II, the Mark III, and then the Challenger 2. For America, you have all the Abrams tanks, and for Italy, you have the 3 Ariettes. And so that's, to start with, at least 3 main battle tanks. For example, again, Japan only has 1, and France has 2. Again, you have stuff like America and Russia that have 3, 4, quite a few main battle tanks. So then you have of course, what else should accompany a nation and their tree? Well, for starters, I also think that every nation should have a missile AA system, so that you can, lock on, to long-range aircraft and helicopters, etc. So again, America's got the ADATs, and well, practically everyone's got one again, except for Japan. But I do get the feeling that theirs will come this update, if not the next couple of updates in the future. And then you have something else that I think is imperative: a IFV. Now, this isn't just for scouting purposes. I mean, for Italy, they've got Centauros and stuff like that, and I think that every nation should have a IFV that's able to have not only a smaller caliber autocannon like the Warrior with her Raden, and the Bradley, which I think uses is it the Bushmaster that the Bradley uses currently?
Yes, the 25mm.
Yes, and the BMP-2 with whatever the hell you call that bloody gun. But it should also be able to carry anti-tank guided missiles. So again, you have the Warrior with the Milan and Milan 2. The Bradley gets the TOWs. BMP-2 also gets ATGMs. Same with the Type 89, and the list goes on. And again, these vehicles have scouting. They have the advantage of that different playstyle, which should be available to every nations, which is flanking, hitting hard at the sides, being able to scout things as well for your teammates. It's a very helpful thing that every nation should have. And in addition to this, I also believe that for ground forces, every that's really it for ground forces. Have 3 main battle tanks, a missile AA, and a scout vehicle. But if you want that added bonus, maybe even give every nation a if every nation in game has produced one, which I do not know if they have or not, a amphibious light vehicle. I mean, even if it does tie into that, IFV line, as long as it offers a different range of playstyles.
Yeah, for me, when we have a look at it, because Zero Calorie T has brought up an interesting point. As he says, instead of making all nations identical, make them different from each other. And he calls it an unpopular opinion. And for me, I think a mixture of the two ideas is required. But the base of it needs to be that each nation has access to, the same capabilities in terms of types of vehicle. Whether those types of vehicle are different in their playstyles, such as if you compare like a T-80 to an M1 Abrams, that is, where that's where, the game becomes interesting. But at least from a base level, the base level being the types of vehicle which are on offer, I feel like that has to be equal across the board. Otherwise, you're just going to have everybody just playing one nation, which is, or 2 nations or 3 nations, which is unfortunately something we see now in game, where you have very favored nations over other ones.
Oh yes, I completely agree. And something else with extension to that, I mean, I also believe that every nation should have a helicopter that's able to carry, not only a number of suspended armament, mainly at least 8 anti-tank guided missiles, but also with, the suspended, rotatable, what's it called, machine gun, or cannon or whatever. I mean, the Italians have, every nation currently in game has at least one of those vehicles. I mean, yes, you could say about the G-Links and that malarkey, but at least it's something.
Yeah, I agree.
And and not only that, but every nation should also have a, what's it called, a supersonic jet aircraft with the capability of equipping air-to-air guided missiles. Again, the playstyle might differ from aircraft to aircraft, but at least the base concept of the vehicle is there. And even in naval, every nation should have, at least, a couple of PT boats, a couple of destroyers, a couple of light cruisers, and access to heavy cruisers. And now, as we're seeing going forward, access to, battle cruisers, whatever the definition of battle cruiser is at this point. I mean, when I say that, for example, look back at what Gaijin has said in the past about what's it called? The Kirov, for example, which is a very controversial vehicle for its time, with some treaties saying it was a heavy cruiser, some saying it was a light and what have you. But as long as a nation has access to that kind of vehicle, again, it doesn't matter what the gameplay is. You can make the gameplay, in my opinion, is what you make of it. You can take a bloody BT-7 F-32 straight up to top tier, get an ace and what have you, but at the same time, you can have a full down tier in the Challenger 2 and get absolutely obliterated. It's what you make of it. So, but as long as you have the vehicles there to have those different options of gameplay, but as long as the core around them is equal across the board, I think you have a brilliant style of gameplay.
Yeah, I agree. I really do. And then the only problem that creeps in is, when you have to put, different types of vehicles against each other, and then it kind of goes a little bit odd. But apart from that, overall, I definitely agree. Like, yes. I think overall, like, at least if we talk about, as you said, like the balance at top tier from just types of vehicles, would you say it has got better over this year compared to last year? Do you think it's heading in the right direction?
I think it's definitely heading in a positive direction. I mean, there are some nations that are missing out, like, again, Japan needs 2 more main battles. Japan needs quite a few things. France needs a couple of tweaks here and there. China needs, well, we won't go into that territory, and Sweden needs to exist. but other than that, all these other nations, I mean, they're perfectly fine. I mean, again, the USA, that has all the correct equipment. Germany has all the correct equipment. The Russians have all the correct equipment. And Britain, and I'll even say even Italy does. Again, Italy's got 3 Ariettes, a Sedan, and a Centauro. And in my opinion, I think they should have something, an IFV like the Drago. But, in generally speaking, Italy's damn fine. Again, they also need a supersonic, but, we won't go into that. But for ground forces, they're pretty A-okay. For every other nation, they're pretty A-okay.
Yeah, because I think about the start of last year, and you only had a few nations which even had helicopters, or even, top-tier MBTs. So for me, it's definitely improved over what we saw.
And look at what we're getting next year. Next year, we're getting Chinese helicopters, Italian helicopters. I'm hoping at some point, maybe this update or over the next couple of updates, Japan will get her helicopter tech tree and, what have you and all that stuff. And it's just, I know people give this game a lot of, shit when it's, when they see all these new modern top tier vehicles and stuff. And they're like, oh, where's all the World War II stuff? But what people need to realize is, more people are starting to play those higher tiers because they're more accessible. And because of that reason, they need a balance to it. And that balance has... I mean, it's getting there. When you had just, for example, the 2A5, things were, just play Germany, play the 2A5. Simple. But now you have America with the M1A2. And, God knows what else is going to be coming in the future with these last generation main battle tanks. And, well, to be completely honest, in my opinion, I think they could easily all go at 8.7, even, just to get that little bit of, what they always bloody call it, decompression out, but not at the moment, because at the moment, those are the nations there are nations that still need their ultimate top main battle tank. But after that, then, just one last bit of slight decompression, and you've got a brilliant golden ticket to a very nice top tier lineup.
Yeah, I agree. I really do think, at least nowadays, War Thunder is looking a hell of a lot more, I suppose we'll call it balanced, than before.
Yes, I know Gaijin has made some dubious decisions recently, what with Prince Eugen and all that, but we won't go into that.
Do you think that, so when you're talking about top tier, it sounds like you're talking about very much the toppest BR, right?
Yeah.
Would you definitely think this is an idea that needs to be extended past that, or do you think most of the BRs in the game are generally okay when it comes
Generally
to
speaking, most of the BRs are okay. I mean, I think there are some nations that still need filling out, like certain BRs, like the French and Japan, and I mean even bloody Italy in some BRs. But other than that, I personally think that that the nations in this game are perfectly fine, other than just getting those last few vehicles for top tier. Yeah, it's nice to see new World War II vehicles added. I myself am a rabid advocate of the Sturmgeschütz 4 being added at some point this game. Well, this millennia, should I say. I will have that Stug one day. Even if it's an event vehicle, I don't care. Just give Stug Gaijin. Anyway, but other than that, it's lovely to see new lower tier vehicles and stuff. It's always lovely to have that, but I do find it very exhilarating when I see these new top tier vehicles and how they fix a nation. It's like, for example, if France gets another Leclerc, even if it's just a slight armor upgrade package, that's still something. That's still their third main battle tank. That still completes their, that still completes their arsenal. And then again, you have the bloody Italians if they got something like the what's it called? The not the Drago. Bloody Italian thing. They've got 3 of them they could possibly add. That's still something. If China gets an SPAA line for Christ's sake or anything like that, that's still something. Just as long as with these things, I know people get tired of them, but to me, they excite me because of, well, A, it's something more that I can shoot at and kill. It's a different experience in that department, but it makes the game feel more complete, more whole.
Yeah.
People say Gaijin doesn't know what they're doing, but believe me, I definitely think they very much know what they're doing. And I think they need a lot more credit than they get at the moment from this. I won't say the majority of the community, but the very vocal minority of the community, who are probably reeing at me right now, wishing for my imminent demise from being crushed by a universal carrier or something.
Fair enough. Well, I think you've made your points pretty well, and we'll move on to the next person. But is there anything you want to finish off with, Sith? Any shout-outs or any advertisements you'd like to do?
Yes, actually, my second novel, which I'm hoping you will do another interview with in the new year, is going to be released in 3 days. The Tales from Anger Book 2, The Quest for the Clockwork of Time. It's been 1.5 years in development, and at last it is complete.
Wonderful stuff, Sif. Anyway,
Yes,
as
thanks.
always, thank you for being on. And
Yes, and thanks for having me.
it's always a nice chat. I'll see you next time,
Hello
Sif.
there.
Yes, have a good one. Bye-bye.
And there is Sith, talking about, of course, top tier, and also talking about his new book, which I'm sure we'll have a chat about on the Tech Hub. So if you ever want to get involved on the Tech Hub, if you aren't already, please check the link, in the bottom of this video, and you'll be able to see, what's going on with that. Also, as well, if you want to come on and have a chat, make sure to join the Tech Hub, and also all of the information you'll need to join is in news and announcements, so make sure to do that too. We'll get on our next caller now, which is going to be Soldier676, and let's have a chat with him now. How are you doing, Soldier? How is life for you in good old Dutchy boy land?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
So what do you want to talk about today? What's the big topic of the moment?
Well, with the introduction of, for example, Sweden, and for the Roy Falk for South Africa, well, basically the British tree, something that is pretty much hyped upon in a small side of the community is adding new nations. So yeah, I would like to discuss what new nations could be added and what that would entail, basically.
Okay. Well, just before we do that, I just want to make sure, guys on the stream, if there are any audio issues, such as if the guest is too low, please let me know, so I can solve the issue. At the same time, what nations? Let's do it like this. So let's first of all go through what nations do you think are most likely to be added, and then how about the ones which you hope to be added as well.
Well, with likely to be added, I don't really know, because recently we got an interview with Krill, I think his name is, and he quite boldly refused a Czechoslovakian tree, a Polish tree, and a Ukrainian tree, which I don't think a Ukrainian tree works, but whatever. And he said like maybe a United European tree or something like that, which I found really odd. So it felt almost like a bit of a blank shot, like I don't really know, but I'm just gonna say something. And I hope it was the case, because obviously I want more nations than just throwing everything in Europe together.
Yeah, he basically say that it's the problem was the amount of vehicles from each nation was not high enough, so they would have to put them together in some sort of kind of conglomeration. Wasn't that the idea that he proposed? I think it was anyway.
Yeah, it said like an actual European tree. I think that would be really odd. It would just be weird and stupid.
Yeah, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. It would be kind of the same as saying like, oh well, let's make a American tree, and add in all of the North American Canadian vehicles and also the South American vehicles. It doesn't overall. It doesn't really make a lot of sense if you put it like that.
It's like completely different design philosophies. But the nations I would personally like to see, and there's probably one I missed, so apologies if that's the case. So as the first one, I would probably like to see Yugoslavia. I think that's one of the most fleshed out trees, you could say, that has a ton of homegrown stuff. Then you have, for example, Switzerland. Yes, that wouldn't get a naval tech tree, but I think a nation can exist in the game without a naval tech tree. I don't think that's obligatory. A Dutch/Benelux tech tree, which I've obviously been working on, so bit of a pet peeve. Spain would probably work with some copy paste, yeah, sure, but still it would be really fun. Romania probably, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Commonwealth, that would be really cool if they actually split off the UK, and maybe a South American tech tree. That would be personally what I would be looking for, but there's probably one I missed here, so sorry.
And for you, is it a case of wanting these for reasons of playstyle and difference, or do you want to see them because you are just interested in the general design philosophies of the vehicle, or is there another reason why you'd like to see them in the game?
Well, they've always basically said it's a vehicle game, and while I can sort of understand that, I also think it is a game about history, and that should be respected. So in that case, why would you, for example, combine like 6 nations together? So in that case, yeah, I want to see them independently to get like a literal walk through history, through the timeline basically, and experience their design philosophies at different stages and eras and all that stuff.
Yeah, I definitely think it would be interesting. The problem is, right, so for you, would you create there is this idea of doing a subsection of a tech tree, right? So what you do is you do kind of like a feeder tree. So if you want to add in an Israeli tree, for example, that a lot of people have asked for, the idea is maybe you get to like a specific rank of the American or the British tech tree or the French tech tree to unlock those vehicles in order to be researched. Do you kind of like that idea? Or would you prefer they were just solely by themselves and not worry too much about people being able to like whiz through them fast, because obviously they're going to have less vehicles than other nations, or have to resort to copying vehicles, which maybe you're okay with that as well. Like what's your opinion on that? Are you okay with having multiple of the same vehicles in the game as long as they're in different trees, because they'll give different experiences because of the vehicles around them?
Yeah, I would personally like to see every nation that can make it, like that can reasonably make it, to be independent. I know there's like an edge case where that simply can't be true. Like, I know Israel struggles a bit, obviously, since it didn't exist for quite a while. And then you have Ukraine, for example, that will also like really struggle at some tiers. So in that case, I could sort of understand if a few maybe get combined or get put in as a sort of helicopter tree where you have to unlock a certain rank. But that should be literally used as sort of a backup plan for nations that literally cannot make it out anyway. Like can't make it in any other way. Personally, I am fine with what people deem copy-paste vehicles. Yes, you play a certain vehicle again that you have played before, but I don't see it as playing the same vehicle again. I'm seeing it as a renewed experience. Like, yes, I've played the Hellcat in the American tech tree quite a while ago, but then I jump into the French tree and I get to relive that because I've already spaded the one in the American tech tree. So why would I play the American version? So, maybe it's a different point of view which I'm looking from, but I don't really mind them anyway. So, and yes, you play them in different lineups against different opponents. So I don't really see a problem with that. Another solution you can maybe implement is sort of a discount system, where maybe you've unlocked the American jumbo, and then you get a sort of discount on researching the French jumbo. Maybe something like that could sort of fix the problem with these vehicles.
What about the idea that now that we're expanding in War Thunder a lot when it comes to types of vehicles? So over the last over the last year, even still, the introduction of open base and naval, the introduction of the helicopters in general, to more trees. Do you personally see it as each nation should have all of these branches, or instead, do you personally see it as something different, where instead you would have maybe one nation only needs like a ground vehicle tree. They don't need all of these other trees on top of it. Or do you think every nation needs to have these 4 cornerstones along with other nations?
I think air and ground is basically obligatory. I think at least air, like air supports everything else in the game basically, so that just simply has to exist. Ground would be maybe a second place because it's obviously really popular in the game. And I think helicopters and naval can be exempt. I think you could have a tree without those two. Naval is already not that popular and only relies on air. Ground and naval don't even meet each other. And helicopters would basically provide what air does, but in a slightly different way.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think if you have the core of just aviation and ground, which are, or airplanes and ground, I should say, those are two of the most popular parts of the game, and I think if you just have them and maybe you skip naval or maybe you don't have a ton of helicopters, I think it's fine overall, even though it would obviously be nice to see every nation have a bit. Now that we see higher tiers where you have a lot more mixed battles when it comes to what you fight, I think other nations can definitely kind of mix together and bring in all the elements instead of every nation needing every single element at its disposal.
Yeah, I think it's completely unnecessary to have a naval tech tree in every single case. Like, for example, Switzerland. Yes, there are maybe a few torpedo motorboats or something along those lines for the lakes, but besides that, you obviously don't have cruisers and stuff like that. And I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So let's wrap this up, because I think we both agree that it would be lovely to see some new nations in the game, and with Sweden coming, that's exactly what we're getting. At least a full aviation tech tree and a full ground tech tree next year. Is there any final thoughts you want to have, Soldier, for the stream before we move on?
Yeah, before we start, I made some notes. So I'll probably quickly scramble through those.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
The first thing I'd like to attend to is that if you add a new nation, you basically add content for years to come. Like, if let's say you include 8 nations, I don't know exact counts, but let's say you include 8 more nations, that's at least 8 years of new content. Like, straight off the bat. So that would be a way for the game to not grow stale, so to speak, where you literally get one vehicle for every nation, every update, and that's it. So in that sense, that would keep the game more alive, so to speak. I think the biggest thing about adding new nations is probably the design philosophies. Even when the vehicle is an export model or modified license build stuff, it could still provide cool, interesting design philosophies. Obviously, you don't have to pay for a tech tree, like besides pre-access or first access, so to speak. You don't have to pay for it, which is obviously great. It feels like a bit of a slap in the face when your whole nation is implemented as like premiums for other tech trees.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see that.
Like in the case of Canada, indeed, for example, it doesn't feel great that you have to pay for the RAM, for example, to play it. Also, obviously, people will pay for early access or even premium quote-unquote copy-paste vehicles. Like, we recently got some in Chinese tree for GE. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that people paid GE for those vehicles. So, even though they are maybe slightly smaller or you don't have to pay for all of them, you can still make a lot of money from them. So, and plus you can add like medals, achievements, camos, decals, and all that stuff, and you can literally like combine them in like, for example, one update.
Yeah.
You can basically create a lot of content around the nation. Plus you can combine a few nations perhaps. So in the case that one nation on its own cannot make it, you can maybe expand upon it a bit. Like obviously I've worked on the Dutch tree, and while I think it can make it on its own, it would be great to see it as a Benelux tech tree, especially for the ground area, because Belgium adds quite a lot of cool ground vehicles, like armored cars and stuff like that. And marketing advantages would be probably really cool. Like, Morphinum would be, for example, the first nation to have like a Dutch tech tree, for example. And if that happens, you can market it like as such and create a lot of attention towards, well, for example, Dutch people or people from Belgium and stuff like that. And the last thing I like to touch upon is maybe you could do like meetups and events. Like Wargaming has sort of recently done a meetup in the Netherlands because they added the Friesland, which is like a cruise destroyer, submarine hunter. So you could maybe do a bit more community engagement in that way through events and stuff by adding a new nation. Plus, it would get obviously a lot of attention on stuff like the suggestion forum and other social media around said nation, and would create a lot of hype.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the idea that they should do even if they decide to go to a museum or something. One thing that Gaijin used to do is when they went to Kubinka, they would make a really cool, interesting video of them categorizing, them at Kubinka. So I think seeing more of those videos would be really cool to see, and I hope if they can kind of mold them into not just historical videos, but also mold them into other things, such as fan meetups and stuff, I think would be wonderful to see. Because it's a double whammy, right? You get the historic information you need, you get to work with the individuals you need to work with, and at the same time you get to add to that community interaction, which is something, a lot of people ask for. And kind of proves that the game is worldwide as well, which is, it's a really cool fact that War Thunder is around everywhere. And anyway, I would just like to say thank you, Soldier, for coming on. It's been wonderful chatting to you, and hopefully we can get the next part of the Dutch Tech Tree done pretty soon. Because obviously I've been enjoying them a hell of a lot, actually just going through and learning about all of the weird and wonderful vehicles that are on offer.
Yes.
Alright, bud. Thank you very much for coming on. I'll talk to you in a bit.
Yep.
Alright, so that was Soldier, and a few of you have been asking, is this live, or am I doing this? Is this gameplay live while I'm chatting? Yes, it is. I'm playing while having a chat. So, holy Jesus. So yes, it's getting a little bit hairy at points, and I'm about to get killed by what looks like a very, very mean cruiser. So, this is Naval EC, ladies and gentlemen. I'm doing great against other destroyers, but I'm getting absolutely shit-canned by light cruisers. Fun. But anyway, we'll get the next caller on while I get killed by an Akizuki. Oh, I suppose that's a destroyer. So, just a very good one. Let's get in Super Cacti. And Super Cacti is here. Let's see. How are you doing, Cacti? How's life?
I am doing good. How are you?
I'm trying to get into naval. It's definitely not. It's definitely, not the funnest thing I've ever done. But at the same time, I'm trying. I'm learning and all of that stuff.
Bit of advice: money is the key.
Yeah,
Buy
especially.
yourself one of them premiums.
Yeah. Now, right now, while I'm playing this, the Helena looks awfully tempting. I'll just say that.
Oof.
Yeah.
You will lose my respect if you buy it.
Oh yeah, I know. Anyway, what have you come on today to have a chat about?
So, with China and Sweden, well, Sweden around the corner right now, we see that in the case of China, it's mainly China, but they also throw in additional countries like Taiwan in this case. Like, what's your opinion on this, where instead of having one nation, they kind of just make it a 50-50, where they slap in another nation?
Well, they did say that with Italy, that's what they were kind of going to do, right? They were going to try and filter a lot of the Axis vehicles into the Italian tree. And if we're just talking about, so would it be just, kind of like a 50-50 split in a way? Or, or would it just be kind of like a supplementary idea to a pre-existing tree? So let's say, do you mean like adding in the Israeli vehicles into, let's say, the American or the French tree? Or do you mean just creating a completely new tree, which, let's say, would be full of like Polish and Czech vehicles or something like that?
Yeah, well, you actually have two versions. You've got something like Italy, where it's just mainly Italian vehicles, but they also throw in some of the smaller nations as premiums. And I guess the US also works with Israel. But then when you have China, there are a lot of Taiwanese vehicles in the main tech tree as well. It's it's not really just China. It's China and Taiwan. And I think for the Swedish, it's going to be now more like 70-30%, like 70 Swedish, 30 Finnish. But still, there's going to be a lot of Finnish vehicles in the main tech tree.
Yeah, and at least my general opinion of it, as long as it's labeled correctly, like I don't really like it right now that Sweden is just called Sweden, because of the fact that you have this massive influence from another nation. I think coming up with a separate, name for it would be the way to go. But the general idea, yeah, I'm okay with. I think what I'm seeing, especially one of the things that has actually made me think, at least recently, is the Roycats, right? The South African, I suppose, TD / reconnaissance light vehicle. I had such an outcry from people saying that they were so happy to see it because finally their nation is represented. And it was kind of interesting to see how much pride people had just from the fact that this one single vehicle had been added to the game, and they were so happy for it because, well, I'm guessing out there isn't many options for them when it comes to celebrating their heritage through gaming. There isn't many games based in South Africa which aren't. I think wasn't a Resident Evil one based in some maybe South Africa or somewhere in Africa. But I mean, there's no really historical game which looks at that part of the world. So from that point of view, I think it is cool having these these vehicles from different nations in the game. I just think we're going to have to start having real conversations about what we name the trees and also what flags that we use. Because even when the Chinese were implemented, right, like we had this whole kerfuffle with the Taiwan stuff and the what flags to use and all of that. So it's something that has to be nailed down first instead of a reactive decision made.
Yeah, I do think labeling it correctly is the main thing to do. But in case of the South African vehicle, it's not. You don't have to rename the entire Britain now because it's a single vehicle.
Oh no.
But maybe in something like China, you could just name it China/Taiwan. Just go the easy way, but still. But also the flags. Now I can understand the whole debate on the the Taiwanese flag. That was the whole thing. But they figured it out now in a legal way. So.
Yeah, exactly. That was very much sorted. But it's just it is something that has to be considered, especially when we're talking about a tech tree which is going to have not just one vehicle, but a decent chunk of it being a separate nation. I mean, personally, I think if I'm being honest, I would rather have tech trees just for specific nations, and if that means we have 20 tech trees which only have like 3 to 4 vehicles in them, and then we just have to work out what requirements for those tech trees, that would be the important part. But that would be like my pipe dream for it, instead of having this mixture of vehicles. But from a pragmatic point of view, I can definitely agree that it is something that has to be thought about, or at least done, if we want to try and make it so the progression through each tree is similar.
So if we now expand onwards a little bit and look at other small nations, like where could we put them? So let's say we have the I think it's the Yugoslavian vehicles, right? The Sherman with the 122, the SO 122.
Yes, the big man.
Like nations like the big chungus with no gun depression. Like, what would we do with small nations like that? Because when you look at a lot of people say Russian tech tree, but the Russians, they have so many vehicles already. Like, are there other tech trees out there that could maybe use the help of a Yugoslavian vehicle?
Well, the Yugoslavia is interesting because the reason why they created stuff like the Sherman 122 was because they were getting a lot of American support at the time to try and, obviously break what they saw as break the chains from, the Soviet Union and not be controlled by the countries around them, a big independence movement. So having a vehicle like that, the influence for it, even though you have the 122, is mainly American. So at least for me, when I look at that vehicle, I think if we want Yugoslavia to be represented, the best place to do it in would be in the American tech tree, which which is really weird to say, because it would kind of be like, you know how people constantly talk about the idea of putting like North Korean vehicles in the Japanese tech tree, right?
Yeah.
And I have no idea where this sentiment comes from, because it's really a worrying sentiment. But at the same time, you can it would be the same as if you put that tank in the Yugoslavian tech tree. It really would not, it would actually probably anger more people than it than it would make them happy to see the vehicle. So we've got to be a little bit careful with that type of thing. I think personally, it's going to have to be done by vehicle basis, right? If we don't want to do it by an individual tech tree. I mean, maybe you could do like a Balkans tech tree. I don't know. It's so confusing, like when it comes to a lot of these vehicles at the end of the day. Incredibly confusing.
I mean, yeah, that you brought up the independence thing, that is also quite important because, well, if we look back at Yugoslavia again, they fought to be independent from the USSR, but then if you add their vehicles to Russia in the game, that is a bit, yeah.
It's a kick in the teeth, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's a real kick in the teeth.
And there's also a lot of debate going around with China when it got added. Like they said, China and Taiwan, they don't go along. Why are they in the same tech tree? But then again, if we look at just nowadays, people just don't really care that much anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's difficult to add in these small nations because if you put them in the wrong tech tree, the whole internet's gonna explode. If you put them in the other tech tree, the community's not gonna be happy.
You know what the hilarious thing about the Taiwan and the Chinese stuff, right? And this was the thing that I found mind-blowing. So, when it came to that, I actually have a decent amount of Chinese subscribers. And I mean, when I say Chinese, I mean Chinese and Taiwanese, both sides of the spectrum. And I was asking them about this because I was like, well, there's this hullabaloo about it. And for them, it was like, no, we accept our history. Like, we know what happened in our history, and it is, this is what happened. We understand there was two sides. We understand that there's a war. Yeah, like modern-day politics-wise, yeah, it's a little bit annoying, but historically-wise, we agree. We agree what happened. So there's no real argument here on the flags and stuff. And it was very odd to see people being annoyed for other people when those people themselves were not annoyed at all. And it reminded me of a lot of movements that we've had over the last few years where you find people who are annoyed on behalf of somebody else instead of that individual being annoyed themselves. So I'm always a little bit skeptical when it comes to these ideas of where people are worried or annoyed about something, because I want to know where it actually comes from, and if the people who are actually affected by it worry about it, or if it's just something that is kind of like just one of those things to get annoyed about at that moment because there's nothing else to get annoyed about.
Yeah, exactly. It's just whenever a new nation gets added, everybody. Well, in case of China, everybody just started ranting about Taiwan being in a Chinese tree. But everybody was complaining about that, except for the actual Chinese and Taiwanese people, which is just funny.
Yeah.
Like, they're just happy that their nation is represented in the game.
Yeah, exactly. They just, I mean, obviously you have the Chinese client, but at the same time, there are a lot of Chinese players who play on the international client because the international client offers a lot more than the Chinese client does. So therefore, they were just happy to see their vehicles, and that was it. Kind of like with the South African stuff. Like, it would have been so weird if a lot of people, which you never know. I mean, it might happen going forward. But now that this South African vehicle is added, are we going to get a bunch of people talking about, the Commonwealth issue? Like, obviously, the Roycat was made for a specific reason. I'm not going to go into the reason why it was made, because there's let's just say there was a lot of turmoil in South Africa at that time, and funny enough, the South African government was like, "Oh, we need to make all of our own vehicles now," and nobody's asking why, and nobody's looking at why. But I'm just saying, there's a history there which is a little bit worrying. So if you wanna spend like a day or so looking through it, and then you can get offended by it, then do so. But the thing is, it's something that once again, all the South Africans I've talked to, they accept the history, they understand what's happened with it, and at the same time, they're just happy to see the vehicle. And that's how it is. A lot of people really don't care about the politics, or really don't care about what goes where, or they don't really care about the balance of the game. They just want to play the stuff that they enjoy. So or play the stuff that they've seen through their lives or their history. So for me, from that point of view, yeah, I think seeing a lot of these more interesting vehicles from different countries would be nice. The only question is how. And that's where we come in when it comes to working out what should be done.
I mean, I think the most important thing to get out of all of this is, in the end, it's just a video game.
Exactly. Yeah. And you should just enjoy it and not worry about it too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not real life. Just enjoy the vehicles that are here to offer.
Yeah, exactly. And only get annoyed when there's an actual thing to be annoyed about.
Just be annoyed about premiums or something.
Yeah.
Just don't be annoyed about things.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, Cacti, it's been wonderful chatting to you about this. Is there any last comments that you want to have before we move on to the next caller?
Not really. Just have a nice day to all the people that are watching.
Yeah, I hope everybody has a great day as well. Like, it's been good so far. It's been a nice, relaxing Sunday, so hopefully that continues. Once again, thank you, Cacti, for coming on. It's always a pleasure having a chat, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Alright, you too. Have a good one.
Alright, it's always wonderful talking to Cacti and Soldier. If you don't know who they are, they have been the individuals who have been creating videos with me talking about the Dutch tech trees. We did a bunch of videos looking at the aviation tech tree for Dutch, and now we're going to have a look at the naval stuff. And to be honest, it is really fascinating going through it and reading about, all of the different vehicles and what they were used for. So if you want a nice little history lesson, something to kind of build off on when it comes to your general knowledge of different countries which you may not be aware of had like huge militaries, make sure to do so. The next person we're going to be on, or going to come on, is Captain Jack. And Captain Jack's going to come on after I land, just so I don't cock this up and look like a Burke. So let's make sure to land and make sure everything goes okay. By the way, I really like the TU-2. I think it's an amazing aircraft. If you want a really good grinder, really good SL maker, this is definitely it. This is one of those ones to pick up and have some fun in. I don't think they have the premium one anymore. Right. So let's get Captain Jack in and make sure he is all ready. Hello, Captain Jack. How's life? How are you doing?
Sick as fucking coughing like General Grievous here. so I guess the usual, living here in basically Antarctica.
Fair enough. Well, I hope you don't die of frostbite or anything like that. So, what is the topic you want to talk about today?
Well, I wanted today to talk about the Swedish tech tree a little bit,
Okay.
and also touch about one of the topics that was mentioned by the CCO during that Q&A a while back.
Sure. Well, let's get into it. What do you want to talk about the Swedish tech tree?
Well, first of all, it definitely looks like it's gonna be like the fun tech tree, especially in comparison to China. But one thing that has me a bit like wondering about it is like how will they handle most of the premium vehicles and such, like the Swedish the Swedish Centurion and the British tank tree, and then also all the Finnish vehicles and the German tank tree, and also air tree.
So do you think they'll just bring them straight over into this new tree, or do you think they'll like remove them from those other tech trees before bringing them over, or do you think they'll just not bring them over?
I'm more going towards the latter, only because the same happened with the Romanian vehicles when they were moved. As you remember, when they were removed to the Italian tech tree.
Yeah, the duck, right? The duck was
the duck and the BF1.
Yeah, there's so one of the interesting things for me, right, which kind of came out of nowhere, was the fact that they added in the Centurion Action X, which, to be honest, wasn't really needed. If we're being honest about it, it's the same BR as another premium that the British have, and to be honest, it fills the same role, if not has a slightly different role, right? Because it has a slightly worse role because it doesn't have the STRVs. So the question is, do you think they added in the Action X to eventually replace that STRV, or do you think it's?
I am very confident that it's the latter, but also at the same time, the store team dude said that it won't be removed. So I'm like, make up your mind.
Well, no. It's not a play on words. It's a half truth, right? So you can say it's not going to get removed because it's not going to get removed from people's accounts, but it can be removed from sale, right? So
yeah.
So if you wanna phrase the answer to basically be based around, will I keep this vehicle if it gets moved, then yes, you will keep the vehicle. And the problem is, the question needed to be asked better, and it should have been, is it going to be removed from sale instead of just removed?
Oh yeah, because it's good, because you have to be super specific or the moderators will be like, vague question I must answer.
Yeah,
or give a vague answer I must.
Well, it gives them a get out of jail free card, right?
Yeah.
Which you need to try and make sure that doesn't happen.
And I gotta say, from what we've been shown, from the store team and not the store, but the store vehicle premiums, and also the dev blogs for the Swedish tech tree, it definitely looks like it's gonna be an interesting tech tree to play.
Well, we've got. Are you talking about the aviation or the ground or both?
The aviation and ground.
Okay.
Both of the things that we've been shown looks to be pretty interesting and fun to play.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. Like,
But the
go ahead.
What I was going to say though was that I'm interested into how the rest of the nation will be planned out. Like, will we see Danish and Norwegian vehicles being added to it as well? If so, please give 90mm Chaffee. But jokes aside though, I'm just being really curious at that. Or is the Swedish sector just mainly going to be dominated by Finnish and Swedish vehicles?
I think
Well,
for
it's
me,
guaranteed that it's going to be dominated by those two vehicles, since it's the most vehicles that they could add to it are from those two nations. But I'm like more asking, like, would we, if we, or maybe we could potentially see these others.
I think for me, the fact that they've made a distinction between adding, between adding the vehicles of the finish and not the other ones, instead of leaving it open, at least from my reading of the situation, would make me feel like they are just going to do finished vehicles and that's it. But I'm sure if there is enough people asking, for these vehicles, eventually they will come. I know one of the people who hangs out on the Tech Hub, Silverbud, he's a Dane, and he's been asking, is there any chance, why couldn't the Swedish tech tree get the Danish Phantom, which is... Wait, is it the Phantom? No, sorry, not the Phantom. What's the top tier Swedish jet? Is it the Viggen, I think?
I'm not so sure because I haven't done much into the Swedish aviation.
Right. Well, there's a vehicle. I believe it's the Viggen, and the Viggen is like this very, very. It's a really interesting vehicle because it has a. It's like got a double delta wing in a weird way. And the Draken as well. Yeah, thank you, Xanthra. So you've got the the majority of people have been talking about the Draken, and the Draken also has this really interesting delta wing design. The problem is that the version used by the Swedes does not have any ground armament. It is only designed for air-to-air engagements, and the Danish one has access to bomb pylons because it has to be within. It has to be. What's the word? It has to be within NATO standards, right? Standardization. So therefore, it has to carry these bombs. So a lot of people, including Silver, have been saying, well, what if we had that Danish Draken, which still would be Swedish, but it would have at least the bombs added on, and it would give something to the Danes. Do you think something like that could be possible, or would you rather see just specific vehicles added, from other nations to the Swedish territory? You alright? Sound like you're
Yeah, I'm
dying.
alright. A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, and honest, I'm not so really certain, honestly.
Say again, sorry?
But I'm not so certain, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So for you, are you looking forward to the Swedish tech tree for any reason, or what? How about the dev blogs? Right? Have you got your interest piqued by the dev blogs, or are you waiting to see some of the other maybe top tier stuff that might be on offer?
Just these dev blogs in general, primarily because I've been shown a decent amount of low tier stuff. Because I know that definitely the low tier Swedish stuff is an interesting bag of vehicles. Interesting bunch of vehicles for the low tier Swedish. And ground forces, that is. That's what mainly piqued my interest, but the searcher is kind of excited me as well just by looking at the dev blogs.
And what about the? So for you, have you purchased any of the pre-order packs?
Actually, no, I haven't. It's simply because I'm not a fan of the whole pre-order stuff. I'm
I
not a
understand
fan
that.
of just pre-ordering stuff like that. And besides, when I want to buy something for War Thunder, I usually like to wait for a sale or something.
And
Even though
for
that most likely sale on the Swedish vehicles isn't going to happen at all, though.
So as a because I'm kind of like you. I really don't like pre-ordering stuff. I think I understand why it exists. I just disagree with it. And one of the interesting things that they seem to be doing now is they're giving people time to be able to look at these vehicles before pre-ordering them, which is with the J29 for example and the Pyramirski, with the fact that you can have it for an update before the Swedish aviation drops. This gives time for people to maybe make videos on it, for people to test it on the dev servers before, if they want to buy it in order to get access to the Swedish tech tree in the next updates. And they're obviously doing this, the same with the STRV and the the SA20, I believe it's called. So do you think this is a better method of doing things, or would you rather go back to the old method, where just if you pre-order a vehicle before an update, you get access to that Grand Tech tree straight away?
I'm not so really sure. It's kind of a split opinion for me, in all honesty.
Well, what is it split between?
Well, it's split between, well, I mean, some people can get a ridiculous amount of progress and reach the end of a tech tree, but that helps showcasing a lot of vehicles in the tech tree. But I feel like at times that can kill the excitement when the tech trees and second, I'm not a fan of an entire tech tree being locked for an update for like a couple of months, and instead actually leaving it locked to be developed.
Yeah, for me, I think that there is definitely a balancing act, right? Like I've seen in the Hearthstone community, there is I don't know if there's an expansion which has come out or it's coming out or it's already here, but I know that there is supposed to be this expansion based around dragons. And one of the things that I've been reading throughout the community is this idea that there is a decent vocal amount of people who want it so Blizzard, who obviously runs, Hearthstone, they don't want streamers to be able to be given early access to these cards and, the expansion itself, because they don't want the metas to be figured out as quickly as they are. And also, they don't want to kill the hype. They want to see all the stuff themselves and they want to experience it themselves. I definitely, it isn't just a War Thunder thing. It isn't just a War Thunder idea that people are going to. It's definitely present in a lot of other games. What was the question you wanted to talk about, or what was the answer you wanted to talk about when it came to the CCO interview? I'm guessing you're talking about the one with Sean, or are you talking about the one that was done on the news website?
No, I'm more referring to the one that was done with Sean, because I'm very certain that during the interview, at one point, they were mentioning about bugs and how they weren't being and at times they would take a very long time for them to actually be fixed. And then Anton blatantly, or not Anton, that's wrong. But he blatantly Kan du gå?
Skal du ha mat?
Jeg kommer!
Ja, du skal legge deg når da? Og det er min. Kan jeg med?
Do we have a translator in chat? Norsk? So Norwegian? Yeah, Captain Jack's just...
Yes.
Oh, there we go. He's back.
But yeah, moving on. To what I was going to say
Alright.
before I got interrupted. They said that at times they don't even want to fix bugs. Like, they blatantly stated that they don't want to fix bugs at times, and I'm like, and all I could think when I heard that what time was like, yikes.
Yeah.
And they, because currently in recent updates, we've noticed that there's been an abundance of those random bugs where literally armor is not being registered, like on the Centurion Mark 10.
Yes. Where you could machine gun. You could
The
machine
entire-
gun through the turret or whatever.
Yeah, and then there's also like there was an MG bug on the Type 61, I think, as well. If you shot it on the right side of the hull.
Yes. It was very egregious.
Yeah, but that's like the thing though. It's like I can understand if bugs are like left out primarily because they're like small time bugs that are just bugs that would change the performance of a vehicle. But I don't like it when bugs that basically are game breaking just gets left out for like a very long time. It's like, if you think if any other games had some like game breaking issues like that, then that would be fixed in like a snap. But with War Thunder, it's like a case of sometimes bugs just literally sleep until the gaijin actually bothers to fix them.
Yeah, I think he was probably referring to the bugs which are the ones, as you said, which aren't game breaking. Like maybe it's just a minor bug which doesn't really affect anything, and they're obviously going to have a priority list when it comes to bugs. And if they want something fixed, then they're probably going to fix it pretty instantly. I mean, when I think about the EHC, right, the easy anti-cheat, that was bugged for maybe 3 to 4 days with several different bugs, making it impossible for certain people to play the game. Now, to me, that is game breaking. That is fully game breaking, and that was fixed pretty quickly. So, I think when it comes to a lot of bugs, if it is serious enough, then yes, it will get fixed quickly. But at the same time, there is also this problem of maybe they don't know how to fix it, or maybe there's if they fix it, they know it'll break 10 other things, so therefore it is not worth fixing this minor issue to create a lot of other problems. But I do agree that I hope in the future, when it comes to bugs in general, they are heavily prioritized over other parts of the content. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe give somebody a raise or something. I'd definitely say update, was it 191 when the Phantom was added and the MiG-21? I can't remember.
Yes, I think actually.
Yeah, and there was massive game-breaking bugs for supersonic jets in the form of when you got near to Mach 1, the plane would force itself into the ground for no apparent reason if you were close enough to the ground. So yeah, for me, and that at least happened for a week, maybe 2, maybe 3, and that to me is not good enough. That to me is, it needs to be fixed quicker if it is a game-breaking issue. So hopefully that will happen in the future.
Yeah, and while we're at the topic of that update, I just wanted to mention I feel like they just need to erase some of the standards when it comes to pre-testing before releasing patches, because like I can accept it at some points, but but not being able to pull off at all, like, how can you let something like this slip through? Ja. Helvete. But I definitely feel like that's like that. I don't know. It's just I'm not a fan of how sometimes these things just go wildly untested when it comes to War Thunder updates.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I think they should do more dev servers. I think
Or, you know, an actual dev server that people can, you know, actually access.
oh, like all the
And,
vehicles.
you know,
Yeah,
do
yeah, that'd be nice to see.
a dev server where they can, you know, do actual testing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be good. I really do. I really do
Because-
think they should do more. And yes, even if it's just one dev server, and then let's say you do like 2 or 3 dev servers, and only one of them, all the new vehicles are open to everybody. I think that's what they should do, just to make sure, you know, if people want to report bugs and stuff, they can, and at the same time they can, you know, test new vehicles and have a bit of fun with them. But anyway, I think we have a decent amount of people who are ready to come in, and it sounds like you need to get some dinner or something. So, is there any final points you want to make before we move on?
Yes, actually. Fuck winter.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, thank you for coming on, Captain Jack. It's always a pleasure having a chat to you, and I hope you feel better, bud.
Yeah, so.
I hope. Yeah, I hope he does better. I've been in that situation. I already feel like, you know, my throat personally is not as good. So hopefully, you know, hopefully I don't catch the cold. But we'll see what goes on. And also, this ship EC mode, just as a general update. I mean, you can see what's happening. You can see what's happening. The heavy cruisers are finally taking over after, well, maybe an hour or so. I'm having a decent bit of fun just pottering around in my TU2, but there's no way I would spawn a destroyer right now, because it's just going to get eaten by heavies. So, yeah, it is how it is. It's kind of fun, though. I suppose maybe you need if I was just playing this and not playing anything else, I think my brain would melt. But doing the Fireside chat alongside it is definitely, you know, it's actually kind of fun. Anyway, let's get the next individual on, and the next individual is Aircat. So let's bring him in right now. Here is the wonderful Aircat, and hopefully you can hear me, bud. How are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well. How are you, Tech?
You know what? I'm living. I'm trying to play this game mode, and you know, just trying to turn my brain off at the same time. So, what do you want to talk about today? What is the hot topic in your mind?
So, what I've been thinking about is World War I vehicles, particularly aircraft.
Interesting.
So in particular, in War Thunder, we never really went into World War I aircraft or even vehicles in general, but we got close with some of the biplanes that we currently have, which they're really fun to play around with, and a lot of people would agree that they're quite enjoyable. In which I've always wondered why not, War Thunder add like World War I era vehicles, because there is a diversity in some of the vehicles, especially through a couple nations, being that there was bombers, there were aircraft fighters, etc. like that. So what I've always wondered is why hasn't Gaijin added World War I yet?
for me, when I look at it, right. So for the aircraft point of view, I would love to see it. From the naval point of view, I would love to see it. There's a lot of really cool naval vehicles that could easily be added, and also aircraft. And I think it would be really fun. The two things though, right, which are always the things that are on my mind when I think about these ideas. One of the things that we see with the new vehicles that are coming in is always this monetization element, right? Like, so with the HIPAA, $60, I think. With the STRV, you're looking at $50. With the SAV, $20. So how if they did a massive expansion into the First World War, let's say just with aircraft and just with naval, so we don't get into the argument of should First World War tanks be in the game. How do you effectively monetize them? How do you bring them in and actually make money on the scale of what they do with the top tier stuff right now?
Yeah, I guess that is a really good point, because especially when it comes to the researching point of view, because like at low tier you have like aircraft that only go about like 1,000 RP per aircraft at like tier 1, and then you go on to like 2,000, 5,000 at tier 2. And which with World War One, it would in theory be even lower than that, which some people would just go through within like 2 games and get like 4 aircraft if it was only like 500 RP per vehicle. But I guess also when it comes to monetizing it, I mean, yeah, it does strike up a good point, is why would people buy a premium when they could just like a World War One premium, when they could just buy a tier 1 or tier 2 vehicle and research everything?
Yeah, and for me, I think the way I would do it is I would actually do it as an expansion. So I would call it like, I don't know, War Thunder World War One, and the idea is you would pay, I don't know, $20 or 15, whatever the amount is, just some form of money, and you would get access to these lower tier vehicles. And therefore it would solve the monetization issue, because it is technically a pay-to-play part of the game, but it also means that it's not just going to be a bunch of free labor at the end of the day for the gaijin guys. And the only thing that would kill that is if the interest wasn't there and nobody wanted to play it. So you'd only have maybe like 1 or 2 people who actually buy it. But I don't think that would be the case. I think if you made it if you made it like a good amount of money or a cheap amount of money, you could easily get enough people in there to justify it. And I don't think it would screw up with the meta that much. You could even maybe put them at reserve if you really wanted to, but I don't think that'd fare too well at it.
And when it comes to the nations, there would definitely be quite a few, but I don't think we'd be able to get all of the nations that we currently have in the game, aircraft or ships. For example, I don't know what they would do for China or Japan, or I don't even know if Russia had any aircraft in World War One. But I know for Italy, especially Britain and Germany and the Americans, they definitely have a good amount of aircraft, tanks, well, not tanks, but aircraft and naval vessels.
Yeah.
Which then, of course, when we're talking about War Thunder, there's always going to be going on to, well, what about tanks? Because that's 90. That's kind of like the majority of the War Thunder community is they really are into tanks, which, me personally, I'm not, but I can understand why people could be fascinated with it. They're really interesting vehicles, but there isn't that many tanks in World War One, and even then they really were lacking in the performance department because they were brand new.
Yeah, and they weren't designed to fight each other either, which is the big thing. They were designed to get across the battlefield and hopefully not get knocked out by artillery. But for me, even if you wanted to add in, let's say you wanted to add in the Mark 1. right? Or you wanted to add in, something like that, or maybe the Mark IV, you could easily do it by once again selling it as kind of like a cool, interesting, rare premium. And with the thought that yes, this is going to be completely useless. Like this is not going to be a meta vehicle, but it's going to be a bit of fun. And at the end of the day, a lot of people play War Thunder just for fun, and you also have a lot of people who play it because you get access to these weird and wonderful experiences. So I don't see why they couldn't do like one-off First World War ground vehicles. I just really don't think they could do, like full tech trees, just because it would be boring as all hell to play. Kind of like you, at least the tier 1, you have like the land battleships, like the A1E1 Independent and the, I can't remember what it's called, stuff like the Rogo and things like that.
Oh yeah.
So, there's room there for those special premiums, but I think for aircraft it should definitely be full tech trees. And just on the Russian point, Russia did have a lot of World War I aircraft. They weren't as good as other nations, but they still existed. A lot of like these weird and wonderful reconnaissance aircraft, which kind of doubled up as other ideas as well. So yeah, they did exist.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That, if they did add like a World War One gift like vehicle or event vehicle, I'd just love to see the person who tries to bring that World War One tank, like say like the Mark V, and try and kill like a main battle tank and then post it onto like Thunder Show or something.
yeah, like yeah, that would be wonderful. I'd enjoy that a lot. But I think in terms of naval, I mean, a lot of the naval, I mean, we technically already have some First World warships in the game, just kind of retrofitted. But there is a lot of World War I designs that could easily be put in, so I'd be fine with that.
Definitely.
Yeah. And, naval, when it comes to the general mechanics, I don't think there's too much, at least in game right now, which differs a World War II ship from a World War I. Aircraft, I suppose it'd be a little bit different. How is there any specific vehicles you would love to see, or do you like the general idea of the First World War being represented more in the game?
Well, I'd say a little bit of both. I mean, I'd really love to see World War I vehicles added to War Thunder, but the aircraft in particular I would love to see would be like the SE-5A, the Albatros D5, and maybe them implement, say, like airships, like the German Zeppelins, as maybe like gift vehicles.
Oh, because that would be cool, wouldn't it? Holy, I'd love that. That'd be great.
Because you can balance them in a way, because people think that, one single, incendiary bullet blew up the whole entire airship, but you had to puncture several holes into the gas bags, which then once the right air to hydrogen ratio was acquired, then an incendiary bullet would blow up the airship. But there is a way that they could balance it, and limit the amount of incendiary bullets per belts and etc. like that. So I think it is possible that they could add airships into War Thunder as well. So I would love to see that as well. I'm a massive airship nerd. I've gotten so many books and read just so much about the Zeppelin. But I would definitely love to see the Albatross, the Iron Decker, of course the Sopwith Camel. I mean, who wouldn't want to see that?
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things is, so my wife bought me this. I suppose you'd call it a magazine. It was kind of made like a magazine, but it was World War I through the days. So what it did was you could get a magazine from 1914 to 1918, and it would tell you in that magazine what happened every day of that year. So I got the 16 and 17 one, and I'm going to get the other ones as well, because it's just awesome. Obviously seeing a key event, every day and reading about it. It's kind of like that channel on YouTube, whatever it is, the one which does every day or every week, the events that happened that week in history. But the thing that I never knew, which kind of blew my mind when I started reading about it, was the fact that they bombed London with these airships, and I couldn't believe that happened. Because for some reason my brain just couldn't fathom that you could actually do this without somebody doing something about it, right? But it was seen as just this, like, at least the first time it was happened, it caused a hell of a lot of horror in the public, which is just. Oh, I can't even imagine just walking about and, going along your daily life, knowing that there's a war going on, but also knowing that it shouldn't really ever touch you, and then suddenly explosives are being dropped on your head. Like, it really must have been jarring. But the thing I was thinking is, what would stop doing like a one-off event, kind of like the Katusha event, where you could do that, but then make it so the vehicles are not able to go into random battles, and instead you can bring them into custom games, you can bring them into user missions and stuff like that, but you wouldn't be able to use them in matchmaking, just because, well, to be honest, they wouldn't fit too well. Unless, of course, they did fit too well, then you could just stick them in. But what do you think of that idea? Like bringing in a special event vehicle which wouldn't be able to play random battles?
I'd say that would probably be okay. I mean, I don't know if everyone would be really happy about that, because I know that, like, say if they worked really hard or they got the aircraft or tank or whatever in the event, and they're like, oh, I spent, several hours grinding for this vehicle, I finally got it, and then now I can't, shoot down a jet with this biplane, what? Like, because I know that there would probably be someone who, like, if they had like a World War One biplane, that someone would try and shoot down a jet with it. I could just imagine it happening. Or even just bring it into, just a low tier match. I think if they did implement like a World War One biplane, I think it would still be possible to implement it and still it do okay, just because of its maneuverability aspect. I mean, of course, the top speed would definitely be a massive disadvantage, but I mean, the fact that it could still turn really well, you could still use it, and there would definitely, you'd still be able to. I think for the biplane. Tank, on the other hand, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, and also I know a lot of people have brought up the argument that, well, they're going to ruin higher tier matches because they're going to bring these vehicles into higher tier. Well, that already happens, like with reserves.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Like that already happens. So you just it's if you're worried about that eventuality, then you need to worry about it right now instead of that stuff, and change the game so that fits. But yeah, I don't think that's an argument against it, really.
I mean, I do that. I kind of meme around at top tier. I brought a CR32 BIS into an 8.7 match, and I actually killed a Super Myster. I mean, I really enjoy doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I can understand on the frustration that, because a lot of the times it is free kills for the enemy team, even though, in that circumstance I lived through that match.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can definitely see people being angry about that, and I think they could implement, say, a maximum BR, kind of like a capping point per each vehicle, saying that you could bring it up maybe like 2 to 3 BRs ahead of it, but after that, then you can't actually bring it into the match. Because I can see in like some cases where, say, like you have a friend of yours that is playing in War Thunder, and they just kind of started playing. They're at like a tier 2, and you're grinding out your tier 4 aircraft, and they really want to play with you, and you really needed to grind out your tier 4 aircraft, and you decide to bring them along. I think that would be okay. But if bringing in tier 1 aircraft into like tier 5 matches, I think that's when people start to have issues.
Yeah, for me personally, if you wanted to fix that, it would be simple. You just put in a limiter of +2, -2. So you just say if you're at 6.0 in your lineup, you can bring 4.0 to 8.0, and that or well 4.0 to 6.0 obviously. Otherwise, you go up in BR. But but that would fix the issue. Yes, you'd still have issues, but you wouldn't have as much. I suppose what people call griefing, even though there's no real competitive mode in random battles. I understand the frustration people have. I think that problem can easily be mitigated, if it's seen as a big one. And I don't think it should be something that stops stuff like the First World War being represented in War Thunder. We've been going forward in history so long. We're now at the 90s, even 2016 with the Type whatever majig, the Type 16. So why not? Why not give a bit of love to the old guys, as long as we can work out the monetization issue, which is the big thing, at least in my mind.
And and another thing is World War One is a very crucial part in history, and I think it should be remembered, and I think that they should implement it into War Thunder, because it is such a not only fascinating but incredibly crucial part in our history. And how War Thunder is, trying to, recreate a lot of the historical, facts and all that stuff, as well as, putting in a video game. But I think, World War One kind of is overlooked by, how World War Two is kind of more famous and more well known. And I think it would be nice, to have the implementation of World War One into War Thunder, because then, because a lot of people that I know, when they started playing War Thunder, they decided to actually start, looking up these aircraft, and then starting to watch, documentaries and learn more about history. And I think if they added World War One aircraft into the game, then it might encourage more people to, actually start to take a look into, World War One and the history about it.
Yeah, I agree. There was actually a really interesting post on the Reddit, and it was talking about some comments that an individual had made about the Abrams, the M1A1 and its DU armor or whatever. But the interesting thing was the first comment, which had basically said, without War Thunder, I would only know the Abrams tank as the Abrams. If I ever saw any Abrams, it was just the Abrams. But now, you now know all of the different variants. You obviously, chatted to a bunch of people about them, more about the history of it, and it's kind of nice. That's why, for me, War Thunder is not just a game. It can be a really good learning tool. There was even an individual I was talking to a few months ago who was doing some Army Cadet courses on the history of warfare, and he was using War Thunder for screenshots and videos to basically show off these vehicles, and using it as kind of like a training aid, which is just, it's baffling, but it's wonderful to see that that is part of the game as well.
Yeah. I the monetization issue for World War One is definitely going to be a tricky one, but I'm hopeful that Gaijin does come up with something. I mean, I bet they will at some point, but I know that they're kind of focusing on the other tech trees and implementing other things like helicopters for other nations, which I think they should prioritize the parity of other nations. I think they should focus on that first before they actually go into World War One. Make it more balanced and fair for all nations. Make them helicopters. All of the all of them have the radar guided missile systems and the Mach 2 jets, etc. I think they should all have that first before they get into World War One. But once they do that, I would love to see them try their hand at World War One stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in the same boat. Like, I think this year we've made a lot of steps towards nations being not on complete parity, but on much better parity than we saw before. So I think overall the game is definitely on the up when it comes to that. And once we get to a point where maybe we run out of top tier vehicles to put in, maybe eventually we run out of 60s and 70s jets, because obviously that's going to be a big thing in the next year. I mean, it kind of has to be with the expansion of the supersonic era. Maybe eventually 2 to 3 years down the line, the First World War stuff will come, and I'm looking forward to it if it happens. But it would be nice to see if Gaijin ever would address that, because I know they've addressed it in the past, but as we've seen from this year, the past seems to be kind of out the window when it comes to statements that have been made. So,
that's for sure.
Well, anyway, it's been wonderful chatting to you, bud, and
Indeed, it was a very nice chat.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for coming on. And is there anything last that you want to say to the stream, or any final thoughts that you have?
The final thoughts I have would be, the statement that you made a couple seconds ago, being that what happens when we run out of modern vehicles, because once we hit like the F-22 Raptor for the Americans, I mean, we're pretty much done.
Yeah.
Or the A-10 Warthog, I get. Well, they'll probably become before the F-22, but we're already basically at the doorstep of modern tanks. I mean, we're already pretty much there. So really, the next step would be the aircraft, which is coming up really fast. So, I know that they're probably going to implement more World War II stuff. That's what my prediction is. They'll probably expand more World War II stuff in the meantime, and then maybe, hopefully, in theory, they'll go on to World War I stuff.
Yeah, I hope so too. I really do.
Because they can't keep getting more modern unless we start seeing X-Wings and starships being added into Tier 20 or whatever.
You know what? After this year and the statements that are made, I wouldn't even put it past them. You know how they have that they have that space game? I can't remember what it's called. Star Conflict.
Yeah.
Just get that, cross out War Thunder, just hammer them together and see what happens.
Oh my gosh, that'd be nuts.
It would be hilarious. Anyway, as I said before, thank you for coming on, bud, and I hope you have a nice evening.
Thank you, Tech, and thank you for hosting.
It's a wonderful chat. Really enjoyed that one. It was a great topic to talk about. And let's see. Okay, so. Okay. Let's get Rocker on. Hey, Rocker. Oh wait, I need to unmute you. Hello, Rocker. How are you doing today, brother?
Oh, I'm doing just fine. I got a little bit of a headache, but other than that, nothing too unusual.
Oh, that's good. So, what is it that you want to chat about today?
What are your hopes for Arms Trade Tycoon? What would you like to see out of it?
In what way? Do you mean like just general use, or like?
Yeah,
So
what would the ideal version of that game be for you?
the ideal version of that game for me would be very similar to the old school tycoon games that you have, which are heavily based around management and heavily based around key decisions that you make in order to make a profit. So the one which I'll always go back to is like the train tycoons and stuff like that, which are very much based around you have these multiple options that you can take, but it is really up to you to nail down the correct option. Otherwise, you're going to have a really bad time. I want decisions to have a big impact on that game, positive or negative, and I want the idea that they talked about before of this in the interview, where they talked about the customization of the vehicles. That to me sounds incredibly interesting, because one of the things that we're missing when it comes to just generally games in general is this essence of tank building. You know, there isn't really a game out there. I mean, there's that naval one, isn't there? Which just came out, the Battleship Builder or whatever it is.
Yeah, there's a few games where you can build battleships, but I can't think of many tank building games. There's a few plane building games, but yeah, there's when it comes to military vehicles like that, shipbuilding seems to be the only one with any fleshed out genre.
Yeah.
You know?
So for me, when I look at that and when I think about that, I am really interested to see on how much customization is going to be available in order to, you know, create what you want to create. Also, another thing they talked about in the interview that just got me incredibly interested was this idea of sharing technology. So if you decide to pick Britain, and then the British are allied with France, you know, in the normal way, in let's say World War One, then they can capture German vehicles and send them to you, and you can gain technological research and technological things from that, maybe a new turret or maybe a new gun, and you can apply it to your vehicles. So you can, I can't remember the phrase that they used, but it was the one, I mean, I can't remember the phrase that they used, but being able to, instead of just being stuck with a single tech tree, depending on what country you make, being able to combine the ideas from different places, that to me just sounds really, really cool. I'm really interested in that. So yeah, I'm not too interested in the
Hello there.
in the decisions when it comes to like the economical side, when the resource gathering and stuff like that. I'm much more interested in the tank design and making sure that your actions have real consequences, because what we've seen with a lot of games, even that Game Tycoon game, it is really hard to fail that game. You have to really want to fail that game to fail. Same with a lot of the other Tycoon games. So I would like real consequences in this game. How about you? What do you see in this?
I would say largely the same. I do like a little more economy focused, but ultimately I will still be in it for the the tank building and the technology sharing sounds awesome. I'm gonna be honest, because there are games like I've always hated how Hearts of Iron limits you so much to the country you choose.
Yeah.
And then it just sort of removes any of the, like, when it comes to vehicles, they all have the same stats and everything. I think a game that's going to really allow a focus on the differences between vehicles and stuff like that, and you've got to find a way to actually compete on those vehicles, seems interesting. It seems like it's going to be a Tycoon game that actually has some competitiveness to it with whatever you're going up against,
Yeah, and one thing they didn't really talk about, I suppose, which is kind of like my fault because I didn't really ask about it, but it's so we know that the, let's call them enemy nations, will have tanks and will have tank designs, and mainly tank destroyers is what they focused on, when they were talking about it. But one thing I didn't really talk or ask about was rival companies. Like, is there going to be companies who are vying for funds, who are going to put forward their tank designs, and so you don't have to deal with just the enemy nations companies with these tank designs. Do you have to deal with other companies just competing against you? And that is an interesting factor. And also, from that you could have random events where maybe the administrators, like your administrators, get poached or something, or you're vying for competition of your work people. Like, maybe you have to worry about wages and stuff at that point, because if your wages are too low, they'll piss off somewhere else. Like, you can understand where I'm coming from.
There's a lot of potential.
Yeah, like that. And for me, there isn't that in other games around this genre yet.
And I think being military and or defense or whatever you want to call it, being a game centered around that industry, there's a lot of unique perspectives that you can open up as well, because the defense industry is it's a highly competitive industry with a lot of mergers and similar stuff. Like you could turn it into, this company's getting too large, I'm going to spend a lot of money buying them out and then just keep their program going. And oh god, that sucks. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of potential there.
No, I didn't need the Kit Kat. It's in the cupboard. Sorry, my wife is looking for sweets. And because I'm fat, she thinks I just have a hoard of them. But no, I agree with you. Have a bit. Just try a bit.
I know what it is.
Okay.
My old department manager is Filipina. She gave me one of these. It was really good.
There you go, eat it then.
I don't want the whole thing. It's too sticky and I'm busy.
We'll eat half of it then. God damn. Anyway, so as you said, nowadays there is a lot of competition when it comes to defense contracting and stuff like that, and even in Britain, where this is. I'm guessing that's where they're going to try and primarily base it, since it seems like the alpha that they're making is made around Britain. But the other thing is will there be a way of actually going bankrupt? Like, will there be a way of losing the game, or will it just be like, nah, that's all good? And also, they talked about the sandbox mode, right? This idea where you can kind of forge your own history and create your own stuff. That, to me, sounds wonderful, but my god, does that sound like, how the hell are you going to do that is like my first question when it comes to it, because I really don't understand how that's going to go.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with it. I mean, they're still fairly early on, relatively, versus what the final product will probably be, so it'll be interesting to see how it expands and how they build on it and what they do with it.
Yeah, I mean, they're so they said they want to do the Kickstarter in March. Yeah, I think so. That's 3 months from now, and they want to have a working prototype by then. So we'll definitely see if they do or not. Oh, that's not
I think it'd be a smart move for them to release the prototype as a demo.
Yes, I agree.
And because that's how KSP did it, right? KSP, they released a free demo and said, if you buy this for $15, which is a discounted price now, you'll get the full games when we start to release it. You'll still have access to a low tier demo, but if you pay for it, you'll get access to these actual upgrades. So it wasn't like just you pre-ordering it completely. You're pre-ordering it, but you're getting an actual product for it.
Yes.
That was playable, and you knew that they're going to continue development. So I think that would be a good move to go. Oh gosh. Oh no. Oh no. So yeah, I think that'd be a good way for them to go about it. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. I'm excited for the game. And I'm really excited for the hopes that maybe they'll move on to planes if it's successful. That's my big thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was, at least to me, it was incredibly obvious when I looked at the name of the damn thing that this was planning for the future. But obviously they are quite a small studio, and obviously they're also kind of a startup. Like, I don't think this studio has worked on anything else apart from, if you have a look at the people in the studio, they are all, I wouldn't class them as veterans, but they do have experience in the game industry as developers and as designers, and they have, they're working in the area that they have experience in. But it is nice to see that they are looking forward, as instead of, okay, we just want to make this and that's it, they have this whole plan about, what they want to try and create. So I'm happy about that. I think aviation gives you a hell of a lot more opportunities as well
Yeah,
to
but it's also
experiment.
I would say it's a lot more complicated as well.
Oh
is,
yeah.
is the big thing there. But yeah, I think if this is successful, I think aviation would be an extremely good way to go for them. They could also go naval, I guess, but I don't know. I feel like aviation has so much more potential to it.
Yeah, I'd agree. There's also an interesting thing right now with the others. I mean, obviously, I've been playing a lot of Bomber Crew, right? And it's kind of sad to see that the development team behind that hasn't really done anything in a while. They've kind of just stopped. And then you've got Armored Battle Crew as well, which is looking promising, but at the same time, it's pretty slow in development.
Right.
I just hope we're not entering another time where we're going to see a lot of half-baked ideas which never come to full fruition. So
right.
I am optimistic about these games, but at the same time, it seems like they're taking a very long time to complete.
And that's money drain. Obviously, that's
Yes.
The longer you take, the more capital you're gonna need to fund that development, and to fund that extended, fund the overhead for that development. So it's better to. I think that's why I think like the KSP model makes the most sense. You get the people who want to put money in immediately, right then and there, and then over time, as it gains popularity more and more, people have more and more options to throw money at the development.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And it worked out well for the KSP at least, and a few other games use a similar method. And it worked out well for them. So,
I mean, at the end of the day, if your product is good enough, it'll do well, right? Like that's the difference to me when I look at a lot of projects. It's like, okay, you've got a cool idea, but where's your working product? Oh, you don't have one?
Right.
All right, well, well, it's not going to do too well, is it? So it's much more about, for me, yes, the base ideas need to be there, but you need to show me something that at least has something available. That's why I'm still really, really looking forward to stuff like Armored Battle Crew, just because they have a really good working system right now, and all they really have to do is add new vehicles to it to, work it out.
Right.
Another thing to also bring up, just changing topics again, because I know we were talking about it today. Did you see the Humble Bundle games again today?
No. Yeah, I looked at them. They were
the Humble
largely
Festival Bundle. Yeah.
Yeah, the Yogscast, whatever. It's not that impressive. They sort of blew their. They just sort of put all their good stuff up right off the bat, and now they're just throwing the trash in afterwards. It looks like.
Yeah, like we've got something called Border Force.
That looks interesting. I don't know what it is.
Well, I watched the video, and it seems like there's a free American expansion of the Mexican border. So
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It looks interesting, but I don't think it's what I would call a good game.
Yeah, I don't know. To me that looks odd. And then the other one is Rebound Dodgeball, which it's like
That looks alright, but
well, it's like one of those games you play for like half an hour and then you're like, yeah, okay, I'm
yeah,
done now.
I own a game called Robot Roller Disco Derby, and I got it because Total Biscuit recommended it long ago, when he was still alive. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
But oh, that was great. Oh, hold on, I'm in a really good spot right now. So, oh no, he noticed me. But yeah, it's a fun game. The mechanics are really strong, and all this good stuff. But there's like there's no community for it, and the bots are kind of boring. And then it's it just gets old. And it's a fun game with good mechanics, but it's not something that I would advertise as being in a bundle or anything, you know?
I agree. Like it's the and only one of the only games that I've seen in the Humble Bundle thing, which I haven't seen before, which I thought was kind of interesting, is this the game that I've been playing the last 2 days. Oh my god,
yeah.
what's it called? Where
Ouch.
I've lost it already. Oh no, sorry, that's in the Humble Choice. No, never mind. That's not even in this. Yeah. So the thing is, a lot of the cool games that have been put in this were here last year as well. So Red Orchestra 2, really cool game. It was in that last year. Chivalry, amazing game. Really fun when you get a bunch of people together. But once again, it was in here last year. And then Crusader Kings 2 as well. So maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just not the target demographic for these games.
I'm gonna buy it just because I don't own Chivalry and stuff like that. But if you do, there's no point in that, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely right now. It's a tough sell, but I mean, there is 10 days to go. We're only even more than that. There's 12 days to go. We're not even halfway through yet, so. Hopefully there's some bangers. Well, we'll have to see.
Yeah, they could pull something out last second to get those last minute sales, but seems like they really sort of blew their wad on the first.
The first few.
The first week or so, not even.
Anyway, as always, Rocker, thank you for coming on and having a chat about something different. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of these conversations over the next few months whenever, stuff for Arms Trade Tycoon's going to be announced. Is there anything you want to finish on? Any statements or stuff you want to say?
Not really. I'm just looking forward to the Swedish tech tree coming out in the next few weeks, and I'm probably going to be extremely hyped for that. If anyone wants to grind Swedes out with me when that comes out, just give me a holler. I'll definitely join.
Yep, I'm massively looking forward to it too. I think it's going to be really fun. Good mix of vehicles.
Yep.
As always, go ahead.
Yep. Nope. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I'm just
going
to say
thanks
for having me and. Bye. Yeah, that's horrible. Just kick me. Just kick me out of here.
Oh God. Oh, it's always fun chatting to Rocker. Like he's a good source of information, and you can talk to him for hours about certain things. He's really interested in military history when it comes to aviation. So I definitely say it's worth just sitting down every once in a while and just having a chat. The next person we have on is Moxie. So let's see how good old Moxie is doing today. How are you doing, brother? How is life?
I'll kill Germans too. Give me 400,000 gallons, I'll go to Berlin.
Shit, but I'm alive. I have clothes to wear, things to eat, and I'm relatively healthy. So let's say it's okay. But some personal things that let's not do it here are bothering me. So it's okay. When you're, you can't say you're bad, but also it's not going well.
Yeah.
So, that kind of a state.
Life is happening, basically. Is there any chance you can turn yourself up? Because you're a little bit quiet, and I have you at 200%.
Just a second. Let me see. Maybe that's user settings in the voice. And
yeah, if you turn yourself up a lot, then I can always reduce you, right? So the problem is I can't boost you anymore.
I can't speak too loud because the rest of the family is kind of
sleeping.
Sleeping there, and maybe I could boost in the Windows. Just a second, boost myself in the Windows. Where is the setup? Hello.
Ooh,
testing.
Yep. All right, that's better. There we go. You just you woke me up a little bit there. All right, nice one. That's much
the Windows
better.
settings was like on a 15.
Yeah, that's
Units
that's great.
of-
Now.
Now it's 50. Okay. So what I wanted to speak tonight is basically about the certain states, the state of the game in certain aspects. And but before I start that, I need to apologize. It was to one player. It was a long ago. Also to kind of give an example what not to be in the game.
Right.
During this summer event, I was, as everybody was grinding stuff, and you had to had like 4 kills in aircraft. And I was flying SM-91 and I had 5 kills, and the rest of my team was demolished, and aircraft was not looking good, and it was a Sicily map. I was flying near the enemy base, and there was like 3 fighters and 1 bombers on enemy side, and 2 bombers on my side, the Italian one. And the game was basically lost. I got what I wanted, and what I usually do is type, okay, people, free kill, who want it, come and get me. I'm there, put smoke, kill engine, and if there is a big gunner, I sit on him not to shoot accidentally somebody.
Yeah.
But what I did is dick move, and I want to apologize to those 2 players, not 1, 2. I typed in the chat, I said, come here, come and shoot me down, and so on. And they went in head on with me, and I don't know what happened to me. I didn't accidentally press the fire button. I shot the first one, then I shot the second one. and I immediately apologized to them, but it was kind of as if devil kind of possessive at that certain moment, and you do a bad thing, then you feel bad after that, but you can't fix it because you did a dick move, and it's done. What's done is done. So to those 2 players who maybe are listening or one day will listen to this, I did apologize to every single one of them. I sent them a private message and said, sorry, it was a dick move, not okay for my side, but I really don't know what got over me.
Fair enough. Well, with apologies out of the way, what do you want to chat about today?
Well, something that's worrying me in the game is from like 4.3 to all the way up to 5.7 German line aircraft. The amount of wins on German and Italian side when they usually fly together is so big that it's worrying. It's beginning to be not just the meme. I played this game for 5+ years, maybe 6. I lost the count. The Allied team was always a meme from the first day I got into this game to now. But never in my gaming War Thunder career did I have seen that Allied teams are so bad. The problem is that, as usual, the Gaijin will try to balance stuff, and when they balance stuff, they do it in the good old Slavic way, not by a little precise tuning, but to use the hammer. And
yes,
it will also create a problem, but on the other side of the things, so to say, the Germans will get horrendously nerfed, or the prices of the repair will skyrocket or something. And I know I can't fix it myself, but to appeal to people who are playing Allied side, because I did went and I often try to play all the sides. I if you are not in a good team, maybe you don't have to be in live combat, in the team. You can win the Germans.
yes,
In all battle ratings from 4.0 to the jet era, early jet era. where the mixed games don't often happen. Mixed games are the bag of luck, and you can't use them as a comparison because mixed games is mixed games.
Yeah.
But when you have a clear divide between one side and the other side, you can see what's going on. So I can't appeal to people who are playing German side. Please be gentle and don't kill them. but I can perhaps try to appeal to the other side. If you don't want to play well, don't play it because you will ruin the game. Literally, you will ruin the game.
Yeah.
For the people who are trying to do something, also you will ruin in a general way to the other side also because something will happen. I'm telling you, something in the next few months, if the things don't change, somebody in Godzilla headquarters will sit in front of his spreadsheet the way they do it and will say, 87% win for the German side from this to that better rating. We need to fix this. Hello, comrade. Vasily, come here, fix this. And Vasily will kind of multiply the repair prices by 100 and nerf the MG151 by 2000%, and then you will have you will have the problem that will be bigger than it is now.
Yeah, and as you said, it's like they do solve issues with a hammer. We have seen in the past where certain vehicles have been insanely good, or certain vehicles have, let's just say, become flavor of the month, where a lot of people are playing it. And what they do is they hammer it into oblivion, and then it doesn't really fix the problem. It just kind of makes the problem disappear without really addressing that problem. So one of the big ones for me back in the day was the B-17s. So this was a very long time ago now, 4 to 5 years ago, when every match at Rank 4 Britain was on Hokkaido.
Hokkaido, yes.
Yes, and it was the majority of the teams of the Americans were B-17s. And
I remember those days.
Yeah, and at 4,000 to 5,000 meters, the B-17 could outturn most planes. It could also go faster than them, and it was able to get their bombs off before even the fighters could get up to their level.
Stop them.
Yeah. So what they did was they made the B-17s fly like a brick. They made them so if they go anywhere near a critical speed, which is nowhere near it is in real life, that they break apart. And they made it so you have a lot more vehicles in the game which actually get air spawns. So, and now do you see any B-17s? And have you seen any B-17s for like 4 years? Not really, you know.
Not in the number that we used.
Exactly. Oh, and they also, because of the B-17, added in that limit of 4 bombers per game. Yeah, that was because of the B-17. A lot of people attribute this to the Tu-4. No, it wasn't the Tu-4, it was the B-17.
And maybe the Tu-4 was the drop that spilled the glass, but I remember that they also nerfed the damage model of basically all bombers. I remember them being very tanky now. They are relatively fragile.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the hammer method of fixing things. But it could also go the good way, like they could buff the Hispano. You don't need to buff MG and not MG the 50 cals anymore. They are working just fine. But yesterday I was flying the Spitfires and other planes with the Hispanos, and I remember the games when I could make a 5-6 kill game without going back to the to rearm myself in the Spitfire now. If you manage to get yourself 4 kills, it's a bloody miracle, and you're empty at that moment. So I'm just hoping that they will balance that by balancing the damage output of the allied planes. But one thing you can't balance is the way the people fly, and I don't know, is there even a point to start talking about that, because you just can't make the people fly differently, or use the brain, or lose that I'm here just to not even the farm, because people yesterday there was a player in the P-57 full of bombs and rockets, and he went for the ground, and I told him, don't kill the AAA, kill the pillboxes, kill the artillery, kill the tanks. They are counting, they are ticket counting stuff. And he was surprised, and he was level like 77 or something.
But he didn't know?
No.
Oh my god.
And there is a ton of people on our side who basically do not understand the
So do you think
physics of how the game works?
One of the interesting things I found, so I've been grinding through China, right? I'm pretty much I'm at rank 5 on both sides of it, so in ground and air. And one of the really interesting things is the Chinese, I think it's rank 3 or 4 with the P-51s and the P-38s. My win rate in them compared to the exact same vehicles in the American tech tree is a lot higher. And I think that's because you have people playing the Chinese tech tree who are generally, you know, they're either more experienced in the game just because it's a new tech tree that's come out, you know, old veterans wants to grind it and stuff like that, get to the top tier stuff. But at the same time, there isn't a ton of attackers and bombers at that BR which, you know, people run. Like the amount of times for me personally I've seen AD2s and AD4s and AM1s in, you know, American games, and they normally don't have a huge impact on the game. But when they do have an impact, they seem to win the game single-handedly. And it's a really unfortunate thing that I have no idea how they're supposed to balance, unless you give, you know, German players similar vehicles and then hope that, you know, somehow that balances it out. But I don't think that would.
Well, you just said one way to balance a game. If you have one team that have a relatively lot of bombers and a relatively lot of attackers, make change to the map so that you basically force German or Axis side to either lose the tickets or go or split, and one part of the team must go and catch the attackers and stop them from bleeding the tickets, so that will kind of reduce the number of German airplanes on the high altitude, just by balancing the map, making the team that like to climb high and boom and zoom the rest of the enemy, force them to kind of go low or lose.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yes.
And even in that scenario, they don't have to lose. German and Italian teams are known for relatively good teamwork. Even if they are not in the team, for some strange reason that I don't know, but some people say because they don't have bombers, because they don't have attackers, because they have similar aircraft. No, don't give me that. Because I have seen Allied teams without a single bomber losing to German team with 4 bombers. Multiple times.
Yes, that's true, because, especially with the grief and stuff in the game right now.
Yeah, and not losing because they bomb our base or because they win a ticket. No, simply because the Allied team lose all the aircraft.
Yeah.
Because like 3 or 4 idiots are chasing the Junker 288, the premium one, and Schnellbomber. They sit on his tail. He have 20 millimeters in the ass, and he killed 2, crit 1, and the fourth one decided not to die after seeing what happened to the 3 guys before him.
Yeah.
And by that time, he's like 100 miles from the battlefield. He's totally useless because the rest of the allied team is dead or low, or
Something's happened to them.
Yeah.
Something's gone wrong.
Yeah. And so the composition of a team is not the problem. I'm going to be a little bit unpolite, and I will say the stupidness, or should I say the stupid way you are playing allied pilots is the reason why you lose. Not because the Germans have a MG159 that is at the moment one of the best guns in the game for the props. It is because you play the wrong way, so to say politely.
Yeah, I think that's the case with a lot of people.
Because the moment when you have a team that slightly have an idea of what are they doing, the Germans will have a hard time. And it will be hard for 3 days ago we flew the P-51s, the Mustangs, the D-20s and D-30s. It was not easy time to win against the Germans, 4 of us, but it was doable. It was possible.
Yes.
Because we play as a team, we play smart, we play to our advantage, and we won. Basically, a few games we won, 4 of us versus complete German, or maybe 1 or 2 Germans have been shot down or something like that. So it's people have been screaming, kicking, and crying. The German P-47 is having air start. He is killing everybody. He is OP. He is this. Who's stopping? Every P-47 at that moment had the air start in the game. Who is fucking stopping you from getting that same P-47 to the same fucking altitude that he had?
Yeah.
Or have? Nobody. So don't come crying to me. Hey, P-47 is killing everybody. For fuck's sake.
If he's killing everybody and you have the same tools, why aren't you killing everybody?
Yes.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. If I was playing American, I was never annoyed by the German P-47. The only time I became really annoyed by the German P-47 was when I was grinding through France, and I didn't have anything to counter it, and it was just eating me alive. So yeah. That was not a fun experience. But I do agree with what you're saying when it comes to general, like, what would you call it? I suppose player awareness. It definitely isn't the best right now. And at least when I go back and play a realistic like I used to, whatever side I'm playing on, I think the general skill level has definitely decreased. And it's all down to awareness of the surroundings. I see a lot of people getting really pigeonholed into looking at one vehicle and trying to kill one vehicle and forgetting about the rest of the team. So any side which is a little bit more coordinated with setting up 2-on-1s or setting up scenarios which force people into 2-on-1s is going to win, like every single time. And it sucks.
Yeah. To go one step back about air start and aircrafts that have air start. I was flying F-6F and some Corsairs. That airplanes should have air start.
Yes. Yeah, Corsairs really do struggle the first 5 minutes.
And I knowing the side that have that aircraft, they will still lose the altitude the moment they spawn in, but at least some of us will climb.
Yeah.
And what was I? thinking next. It's kind of water under the bridge, but I'm just going to kind of say it, and then I will be on my merry way, because there are other people, and you're also. For how long have you been live?
We're at 2.5 hours right now.
Okay.
So not too long, you know. Not too long.
The comment about the comment. The comment about the comment, that is a comment on the Gaijin CEO commenting when somebody asks them, and they post a lot of questions and answers on their side, the Q&A. There was one question, and there was one specific answer that kind of really annoyed me, and I'm going to just say what I think about it. And that it was, of course, about AR and AR realistic. That's the mode I played most, so I'm kind of that's my shtick.
Yeah.
And somebody asked, could they do something about that mode, especially about ground stuff, AI ground stuff? Can they do some more diversity or this and that? And the answer was like, oh, no, it's okay. The AI stuff on the ground is perfect. It's AI. It's we don't see a reason why to fix anything about that. I was like, that from the Star Trek, the meme, the Picard, when he slaps his hand on his head, like, oh my God, you are not playing your game. Playing your game. Because everybody who had played, let's say, Soviet Sci on one of those maps where you fight the Japanese,
like Zhengzhou or
Zhengzhou or something like that.
Yeah.
The first AAA, the AI AAA on those small tracks, not the what was the name of the vehicle? The AI that's on the moving car that's following the column of the tanks.
Yeah, the little greyhounds or stuff like that, like the armored cars. Or...
No, not the armored cars. The AAA.
The like trucks with the not gases. They're not gases. They're type. I know what you mean. The 25mm.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I would rather face a real player in a Shilka than that freaking AI thing on the ground. There wasn't a single mission when I attacked ground forces in that I didn't momentarily get hit multiple times by that AI thing. That it's on the level of airfield AAA, even worse, I would say.
Yeah, I was grinding out the P1Y1, and on that map, every time I went down that column, I took so much damage, just from the AI.
This is just a small example of kind of things that needs to be tweaked or redone, and somebody who's playing knows that. And if I'm playing and I'm also developing the game, and somebody say, listen, those trucks are insane. They're killing everybody who gets close, like 4 kilometers to them, and they are just AI trucks that are following tanks column. That's kind of important to make a ticket lead to it's the way the game will develop. It's on the level of airfield anti-aircraft efficiency. So can you tweak it a little bit? Give the poor attackers a chance, because he's like 25 kilometers from his air base. He won't limp back with oil leak and everything leak.
Yeah.
So and other small details, and when somebody from Gaijin said, oh no, we don't see a reason why we should fix air ground targets or something like that. It's obvious. I'm sorry. I love your game, but you are sometimes real dicks, Gaijin. And yeah, I know that lots of them plays arcade and lots of them play tanks. And IR realistic is a little bit hard mode, although it's considering the other simulators, it's easy mode, but it still needs a little bit. It's a little bit. I don't want to be a snob to say it requires a lot of efforts and kind of high Q or something like that. But it's a little bit demanding, little bit. So.
Well, something I will say that has been kind of interesting is I've been playing, while streaming, I've been playing the Naval EC game mode, just to, kind of pass the time, because I can just turn off my brain playing War Thunder and focus on the, the actual chat. And I've actually seen a lot of people who are staff of Gaijin in these Naval EC game modes. So it seems like, at least to me, they're probably trying to get some opinions on this Naval EC stuff, which is kind of cool. Or at least they are playing it a little bit. But I would agree, there is a lot of them who do just like to play arcade. And at least this year, they have been a lot more receptive to feedback when it comes to their game. But I still think there's, still going to be a way to go.
The problem is to average player like me is how to reach.
Yes.
Don't tell me the forum. Don't tell me the Spanish Inquisition of the forum. I don't have nerves for them. What I this is a kind of pipe dream, but I'm going to say it. They should kind of reach out to people. They have statistics. They should look at the statistics and say, look at this moron. He's playing all day this stupid ARL listing. He have a relatively good score, and he's also invested in a certain amount of money in our company. Maybe we should ask him what he thinks about this and that. And I'm talking about me, but there is also other people, and maybe this is, as I said, the pipe dream. Maybe if somebody like me or some other people who have goodwill and lots of experience could have a direct line to somebody there, and I would not call him every day and ask him how his vendor and so on, but like small details. Yesterday I thought that was a one-time glitch, but yesterday I was flying with the friends on the Norway. Well, we cleaned the ally team, of course, and it was night battle, and two bombers have been hiding somewhere in the dark in the Norway. And what shall we do? Let's bomb the ships. I was in the 55S, so I put a torpedo. One of my friends landed on that island, where is the German base, and he wanted to put the bombs. He landed, he wasn't damaged. I think he wasn't damaged. Anyhow, he landed, and when he's air and rearm, he pressed the old J key, you J out, you go to menu, you put your bombs or whatever, and he couldn't spawn in. That happens to me also. And I thought that was one time kind of hiccup that he couldn't spawn because the game was all. So I was too afraid to land on that base. I went all the way to the main base, land, rearm, on, and after torpedoing one ship, I landed back to that island base, and since I wasn't J'ing out, nothing happened to me, but he was stuck there the whole game. He was dictating us, sinking the ships and hunting. We managed to find the bombers at the end. So
well, that's good.
One of those things that happened, but if I go to the forum and try to report it, I have to fill a billion things, pages, this and that, and after like typing and copying, pasting, dragging links, this and that for half an hour or even more, I will get 45 minutes or maybe 30, 1 hour and so response from the dude that's moderator, like, no, we don't think that's important. So,
well, I'll tell you a funny thing, right? So, I do completely agree with you. I still think that there is a way to go when it comes to dialogue between the community and Gaijin themselves. I also think it has improved, but it still has a way to go. There was an incident. So, one of the moderators on the Discord, John, he's an avid player of Naval. He really likes playing Naval, and the Helena got added. Now, the Helena, the premium American ship, is labeled as a Brooklyn class in the game. Now, it technically is, but it also technically isn't, because it's a subclass of the Brooklyn, right? So, and the United States Navy does not class it as a Brooklyn class. It actually classes it as a separate class because it's different enough. And he reported this in the bug part of the forums, and one of the responses of one of the moderators was to say, well, Gaijin doesn't have to agree with the U.S. Navy about their own ships. So, like, I don't know how you respond to that, you know. I honestly have no idea what you do with that. But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. But I generally, for me, it's when dealing with a lot of the let's call it the members of their team, it's very hit and miss. Some of them are very kind, some of them are very nice, very respectful, and it's always great talking to them. Others are, if just to use a word, twats. They really, I really don't get along with them. So it's very hit and miss, and it just is how it is. Sometimes you just have bad experiences, but hopefully, you know, there's. I mean, what do you think of the questionnaire things they do after every update? Do you think they should do more of them? Or do you think maybe just they should have an open platform where people can put their thoughts, whether it's in some kind of audio way, video way, or text way?
The second one is one I will go for, but I don't see them doing that because they will get a lot of flack and it will result in lots of ranting, lots of harsh words and so on, and the good thoughts will be lost in that bad thoughts, so to say. So, not that I do not want to see that, but that is how I see happening if you do something like that. Because if you put some kind of open platform to everybody, so that everybody can say what they think, that they will know in the community, you will have the English. Sometimes it's hard when you're tired. The like 80% of that will be rent, and like 20 or even less percent will be something useful. And that's the problem, because somebody who will have to look at that will be going, and then will say, screw this. They're just renting. Nobody is saying anything useful or asking anything useful. So.
But did you see the interview that the CCO did with Sean?
Yes.
So
unfortunately, yes.
So one of the things for me is the quality of questions asked was just very sad. And
to say politely.
Yes, I'm trying to be polite, but yes, it was they were not good, and also a lot of them had been answered before. So that's my worry about having just like an open forum where people can throw in whatever they feel like. I also the amount as well is a problem as well, since I mean right now I think War Thunder has like 60-70k players online, and I know for a fact how many people log in every day. Even if 10% of that decided, okay, well I want to put some feedback in, you're not getting through it. Like you would never be able to as even like a whole team. So yeah, it's something to think about. I think even having the option there for people is good. So yeah, it's something I'd like to explore.
That's the problem. How to get the feedback from people, but not be hit by avalanche of rant and stupidity.
Yes.
So, but when they have that Q&A, from where they are getting questions? Did they ever said?
So the place where they got their questions. So you know how they did that? Well, they did an announcement on their website, right? And on the website, and it said, we're gonna have this stream here, and they took the top upvoted questions from the comments section of that news post for the live stream. So that's where they were getting the questions from.
That kind of makes sense, but still, I can't believe the people upvoted all those stupid questions.
Yeah,
or maybe people are just stupid. I don't know.
Yeah, that was sad for me to see. And I hope at some point, like I like how they're doing more interviews with different websites and magazines and stuff like that. There's one which they did for a Japanese website, which I'm going to be trying to cover at some point, maybe in the next few days, which actually, they talk a lot about what they want to do in the future when it comes to customization, because obviously with a lot of the Japanese guys, they're really interested in all the anime stuff, right? And all of the cool skins that they can have. So even there, you have some marketing guys talking about, we may do some of this stuff. So
oh, nice!
It's pretty cool.
I would like to hear what they have to say. But
yeah,
what I wanted to say is that as I can kind of feel that you are not satisfied with the question that they are being asked. So I am also not quite satisfied with the questions people kind of ask them, or they choose to answer. If you want to be a little bit paranoid.
Yes. Yeah, there were two problems for me. So the first problem was the general questions were poor. The other main problem is there was a lot of what I call get out of jail free card questions, and what of these are questions which are not direct enough about certain issues, so they can answer them in different ways.
They can wiggle their way out of present you
and
the best possible answer for them.
Yeah, so one of the examples for me is somebody said, why do we have top tier premiums in the game? And the response from Gaijin is, we don't have top tier premiums in the game, because technically they don't, because they're the highest rank premium for the ground forces is 6, and the ranks go up to 7, right?
Yes.
And in naval, rank 4s are the premiums, and that goes up to rank 5. The question should have been, why do we have top BR vehicles? Which are premiums in the game, but because it wasn't phrased like that, they, as I said, they got out of jail, and it's not good enough. Have to be way more precise. Don't let these large companies be able to just change their answer and answer a question you never asked.
Exactly.
Hold them accountable for it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully,
them to do it.
I mean, for me, even though the quality of questions wasn't great, I'm happy that they did that. I'm happy that they did the Q&A, and I hope in the future we also get more Q&As like that. I really do.
I at the beginning of the interview, I was quite surprised with that first question that was kind of a fist in the face, and I said, yes, they are going to ask the hard question. They're going to. Then after that, it was just lame, easy, lame, like funny questions and la 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 la.
Yeah.
So, shame, but it is how it is. At the moment we can't do too much about it. We can talk like this, broadcast, do everything that we can. Maybe if somebody who have a will and free time to go and fight the Inquisition in the forum too. I'm supporting you, comrade, but I won't do it for a quite long time.
Yes, you have my support, but not my arms. Like
yes, yes, I'm giving you the full moral support.
Yeah, that's very true. Anyway, it's always lovely talking, Moxie, and I hope you have a lovely evening, and I hope next time we can have another chat about this stuff. It's always fun.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me speak. Thank you for broadcasting like this, and thank to all 5,000 people who are listening to us now.
It's always.
It's a quote. Actually it was 7,000 people who are listening, who are here. I think that's from Sex Pistols live performance somewhere where there was like 10 people in the crowd, and it fortunately it get recorded. And the Sid on the stage, he get out and said, "Thank you all 7,000 people for coming here." It was funny. Yeah, I used to be a little bit punker.
Oh, I'm
punkish when I was young.
I have a canvas on my wall with one of the Sex Pistols album covers. So that's all you need to know about my punk history. But anyway, it's been lovely chatting, bud, and I hope you have a nice evening.
Yeah, you too. See you, brother.
See you later, Moxie. It's always fun talking to Moxie. Always nice, having a chat. And since we've been going for nearly 3 hours now, and I'm about 2.5 hours into a naval enduring confrontation and shooting all of these ships, I think we'll end it here. It's been really nice having everybody on. I just want to thank you for your comments in the chat. I've been reading them, going through, and there's a lot of interesting ideas to talk about. I would also like to say, if you want to come on one of these fireside chats, we are going to be doing them more regularly going forward. Make sure to come onto the Tech Hub Discord, watch out for the news and announcements, where all of the information for these will be. And when it comes to the content I create, I personally feel like this is the one I enjoy the most. So it's nice to see the support that it gets on YouTube, on Twitch, and also on the Discord. And I hope you guys appreciate sitting down and having a chat about all these things, and just having a bit of fun and talking about the game that we all love and enjoy. So as always, thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.